All right, welcome back to the Passive House Show, where we talk about all things Passive House and why the Passive House concept is the answer for the future of home building. In this episode, which is episode number 2 already, we'll be talking about the differences between Passive House and a net zero house. Paul Kealey, how you going?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
Well, my name is Mick. I'm here to just ask Paul Kealey questions. Paul Kealey is the man when it comes to Passive House. He owns eco-built passive homes here in Ottawa, Canada. We're actually recording this episode in his own passive home. It's the eco model called Pine Valley. Yeah, how's it been? How old is this house now?
I've been in here for just over a year, actually. Just completed about sometime last spring. And, we started building during the worst possible time that we could build, right in the middle of COVID.
I just remembered I helped put the roof trusses on.
Yes. Yeah.
That's probably when we first met, too.
Yeah. I think I remember waving to you through the rafters, right? and we were trying to make up for some lost time. But, yeah, it was great.
That was a beautiful day, too. It was sunny as all heck. I got my color back that day. I've been in Canada for 7 years, and this is the lightest I've ever been. Anyway, all right, so we're talking about the differences between net zero and passive house. Now, there are many building models out there to build a home. The one we don't like talking about a lot, well, we love talking about it because it needs to change, is the standard code-built home, which is, we mentioned in the first episode, it's pretty much as good as living in a tent. It's got all kinds of air leakages and it's just not built well. I remember you said that, houses in Canada are built the same as houses in Florida, which does not make sense. It does not make sense to have that kind of house here. So what is the difference between a net zero and a passive house, Paul?
Net zero, the term in general sounds great. We hear it in the news, and governments are all ultimately working towards a net zero world, right? And with respect to building code, net zero will be integrated into the building code. It's up in the air right now whether it will be 2030 or 2040. But it's a bit of an eluding term because ultimately any house can be net zero. Build a house to code. You can make it net zero. Passive house is your best net zero home because it ultimately requires the smallest net zero system. So that said, net zero is ultimately a house that produces the equivalent amount of energy as it consumes. So if we relate this to solar panels, let's say you take your code-built home or, even your Energy Star home, may require anywhere between a 40 to 50 kilowatt solar array to offset all the energy use. Passive building built net zero due to all the energy savings features. Most of the time, even for a modest 2,000, 2,500 square foot passive home, only requires a 6 kilowatt solar array for net zero.
Can you say that again?
6 kilowatt solar array for net zero. So it's the best sustainable house as a result. Passive home requires as small as net zero home. So, if you're looking at what way to build is going to best protect your investment while also being designed for the near future code standard that's going to come out, it's your net zero passive house. It doesn't cost much more to build. Cost of living actually doesn't change when you move from a code built home to a passive home, believe it or not, because the incremental cost isn't very much to build it. We're talking 5 to 10% incremental cost, and that cost is instantly offset just by removing the gas bill or the propane bill from the equation. The electrical cost of a passive building, number one, it's the only utility, but the cost of electricity is mostly defined on on the way a family or the way a person lives in the space. The heating system in a passive building, the air source heat pump, the cost is very minimal. It's like adding another refrigerator to the house. That's the efficiency. So the incremental cost to build is easily offset by removing the gas bill, removing the propane bill. From a net zero perspective, small 6 kilowatt solar array being connected to the net metering program. Most of the passive homes that are net metered that we build, the homeowners have a extremely low $50 bill, $50 hydro bill a month. That's the result of your net zero passive home. So it's a type of house that at this level we call net positive. Simply building passive instantly cuts utilities in half by getting rid of the gas bills. Instead of $150 hydro bill a month and a gas bill, you're down to $150 total, removing the gas of the equation. And at a net zero level, net metering level, passive home allows opportunity to get back down to this $50 a month, by simply putting a small 6 kilowatt solar array on the roof and connecting it to the net metering program. If we translate that 6 kilowatt solar array to dollars, we're talking about $20,000 investment in solar.
How much is the 40 to 60 kilowatt?
Probably somewhere between a 40 to 50 kilowatt, probably talking around a $75,000 system.
Oh my gosh. You could build a passive room for $75,000. We spoke in the last episode the first episode, I should say, about the reason why building passive one of the key designs of building passive is being open permeable. The house is being open permeable, which means if there's moisture gathering inside, it can get out. There's no chance for it to stick around, which solves the problem of mold. And I got to say, during the pandemic, so many people, maybe some of you out there can relate to this, but during the pandemic, I would say myself included and 4 or 5 other friends, close friends, we all developed hives on our bodies. They would come and go and come and go. And, all of us were living, for example, my buddy Jess, she started developing allergy symptoms that she gets in the springtime, and it wasn't even spring.
Wow.
And I started getting and she started getting hives. I started getting hives. Another close friend of ours, he started getting hives, and a couple of other lads too. And it was just what is going on? And she moved. She went away when things started opening up for 2 weeks, and it all cleared up. Went away. She stopped getting them, and then I moved. We moved houses towards the end of February last year, and I had hives. I had an issue with hives, just rocking my freaking life. I would wake up sometimes, my face was just swollen, and lips would be swollen, and just dots all over me.
Wow.
And we moved out, and I experienced less and less hives for the next, I would say, over the next 4 months, and then they disappeared. I mean, I think they disappear on their own anyway, but I noticed a significant difference from moving from our old house, which was a very old building, built in the 60s, where everyone used to smoke in it. It was an apartment building, and we moved to a brand new construction, and I felt better. I felt immediately better being there, and the same sort of thing happened to my friends. So I think during the pandemic, when everybody was locked inside of their homes, they started developing these crazy symptoms that even doctors couldn't figure out why they were getting hives or why they were having allergy-like symptoms all the time. And it was it's because in the pandemic, we spent 99% of the time, I would say, obviously locked up in your house, and a lot of that was in wintertime, especially where the lockdowns were happening, where everyone was still getting sick. I mean, that's really bad.
Great story, because it really, to really appreciate and understand something, you got to communicate the extremes, right? And that story just like signifies how important the indoor air quality is, and it's totally forgotten about. Passive house from a health perspective is a reason to build the house alone, just for the health, the health of being inside the home, the health of our world. But before 4 to 5 years ago, so let's say 2006 to 2016, the first 10 years of the passive house construction model being released, being possible, only people building passive home were the green-minded individuals. It was a very small market because of green-minded, extra cost to build, higher cost of living. Only the green-minded people were doing it. Now, today's day and age, for the past 4 or 5 years, anyone that wants to simply save money and protect their investment is the main driver to passive. And then you have all these additional health benefits part of the equation. Honestly, the only people that are not building passive are simply the people that aren't aware of these benefits. Because if you do the cost comparison, if you do the math, there's no reason not to build.
Well, thanks for that. Appreciate it. Everyone, thanks for listening to this second episode of the Passive House Show. We hope you learned something new about this exciting approach to sustainable home building, and we hope that you join us for our next video. If you like what you're hearing, please leave a comment in the comment section, ask questions, give us a like, subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Paul?
Go passive, folks. Build yours today.
Fantastic. Have a good one.